this is my camera, right? And it's firing. But I'm not pushing any buttons. Or am I? I have way too much fun with these things, and you probably saw that was the case if you watched the video that I put out last week on the remote camera setup that we put together here at Fenway Park to cover the Boston Red Sox summer camp workouts that are happening right now. I actually got a lot of questions from you guys about how to actually make a rig like that, how to actually set up a remote camera rig. So I figured today I would follow up with a video kind of taking you through the steps from beginning to end to set up a remote camera rig that you can use for your own sports photography. So why do we set up remotes? Well, there are really two main reasons. The first is to set up a camera so that you can get photos from angles and locations that you normally can't be in. So a lot of stadiums, sports venues, there are catwalks, there are baskets, there are overhangs, there are balconies, and these are places that offer really cool, really unique angles of the sports action that you wouldn't normally be shooting from, or perhaps you don't have access to. So remote cameras are a really great solution to get photos from places that you normally wouldn't be able to go, or to get a creative angle that you wouldn't normally be getting. Now, the other way a remote is super helpful is to catch a second angle or a supplementary angle of a play or a moment that's happening. So let's say you are the only photographer hired for your outlet to go cover a game or sporting event of any kind. Well, obviously you can't split yourself in half and be multiple places at once when the big play happens. And that's where the remote comes in super handy. Let's say you're down in the field in your primary shooting spot with your long lens. Well, you can set up a secondary remote camera, and when that big, crucial, critical moment happens, you have it from your angle and also the angle that you set up with your remote camera. So today, I'm back here at Fenway Park, and tonight the Red Sox are going to play a practice intra-squad game here at the park. And I'm still getting kind of back into the rhythm of the season and getting things ready to go. And so I think today would be a good opportunity to do a practice run for a remote, and I figured I'd take you along and show you step by step how exactly to set up a remote from beginning to end. Okay, so what are the things you need to build the remote? Well, first you'll need two cameras with whatever lens choice is appropriate for the shot. One camera will be your primary camera that you keep with you down in the field or on the court or wherever you're shooting, and the other camera will be the one that's fired remotely. Second, you'll need two transmitters. Now, I recommend anything from the Pocket Wizard series, and I'll link all of these below so you know exactly where to find all this gear and all this equipment. Now, these come in pairs of two, which are perfect for a basic remote setup. The first goes on your primary camera on the hot shoe mount, and the second one goes on the hot shoe mount of your remote camera wherever you're hanging it. You'll also need a 10-pin cable, which essentially is the cable that makes the communication happen between your transceiver down into your camera. Now, I'll link the cable I use for my Nikon bodies here. I'm on the Nikon D5, but just keep in mind this cable varies from camera to camera based on whatever your camera's output ports are. And finally, you'll need a magic arm clamp, and I recommend the ones from Manfrotto, a couple of cable ties for safety purposes, and a roll of gaffer's tape. Now that you've got all your supplies, it's time to assemble your rig. My main piece of advice here is to assemble the rig in a safe, quiet location well ahead of time where you can focus your energy and attention to the setup. Remember, with remote photography, particularly at sporting events, safety is the #1 priority. So the more you can do ahead of time, the better. The first step is to take one of your Pocket Wizards and screw it on to the top of your camera, and that'll just go right here, nice and easy, onto the hot shoe mount on the top of the camera. Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your 10-pin cable and you're gonna plug this end right into this port on the side of the Pocket Wizard, and then the other end right into the 10-pin slot on the side of your camera. And that way your camera is now communicating with the Pocket Wizard on top. Now, before you get out there, you want to make sure that your Pocket Wizard is actually firing. So you turn the first one on, turn the second one on. These Pocket Wizards communicate with each other based on radio frequencies, which means they have different channels built into them that they communicate through. So you want to always make sure that the channel number on the Wizard on your primary camera matches the channel number on the wizard on your remote camera. So I'm going to set mine to channel 23, and I'm going to make sure that the other pocket wizard is also set to 23. And before we even get out there, I always like to make sure that it's firing. So I can just hit this test button right here, and you'll hear that it is in fact firing, so you know you're good to go. Once you've got it firing, you're going to take your magic arm, and you can see this magic arm will rotate 360 degrees whatever way you want to bend it, including at the seam here, but also at the clamp right here, and also at the mount up here. So what you're going to do is you're going to turn your camera over. On the bottom of your camera, you've got a basic thread that matches up perfectly with this thread. It's as simple as just screwing in. Now when you're screwing this piece in, you want to make sure that there's maximum amount of contact between this piece and the base of your camera. So in other words, you don't want to mount it like this that doesn't really give you a whole lot of support, or like this that doesn't give you a whole lot of support. You want to make sure you are maximizing the amount of content to really give you that solid base when you are screwing in your camera. And then this hole right here will just feed right into the magic arm, and you can just tighten that screw. So now you've got your camera, you've got your pocket wizard ready to fire, and you've got it mounted to your magic arm. I always take extra precaution, and I use 2 safety cables. One I will use on the strap of the lens or the strap of the camera, and that way I know the camera itself is connected to something, and I'll clip that in there. And the second one I will actually thread through the arm, the magic arm itself. So in one end, out the other. And that way I know both the camera is supported by a cable tie and the arm is supported by a cable tie. So both pieces of the setup are supported by an extra security cable tie. And now that you've got your rig assembled, you're ready to take it out on location and get it set in place. I like to put this remote in this spot quite a bit because it's a good look at home plate from directly above. It's a nice clean shot looking straight down at home plate. So you get the plays at the plate, the batters. There's just a lot of activity happening in home plate. So you know you can count on this as a good location for a remote. So we don't have a whole lot of work. Basically all I need to do is clamp onto this post right here. I'm going to use this as a nice sturdy base to clamp on my remote. Tighten this piece right here. Make sure that's nice and tight, and then I'll just tighten pivot point right here. Once I've got it close to being set, now is when your cable ties come into play. So I'm going to unhook my cable here, and I'm going to use this railing right here to tie it around, and just put that on right there. That way my camera and my arm are both attached to the railing, so if anything happens, this camera's not going anywhere. Okay, you've got your camera and your composition set and ready to go for the shot that you're going to do, but now you need to think about your exposure. Now keep in mind, I'm setting this at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but our game is not until 7 o'clock tonight. So obviously the light is going to change over time. Well, my best advice for a remote when it comes to exposure is to use either aperture priority mode or shutter priority mode. And that will ensure that no matter what happens with the light, your camera is going to adjust itself to the exposure and make sure you get a perfect shot. Now, keeping in mind that we are shooting a baseball game, things are going to be happening fast. So I'm going to go with shutter priority mode and set my shutter to 1/1000th of a second. So I'm not going to get any motion blur or any sort of shakiness to my shot. Okay, so you've set up your shot, you've set up your exposure. Now what is the final piece of the puzzle? It's your focus and making sure your focus is right. Contrary to what you might think, I actually use manual focus rather than the autofocus mode, and I preset the focus and then tape it down with a roll of gaffer's tape. That way I know the autofocus isn't going to jump around when things are moving my frame. I know my focus is set and it's not going to change no matter what happens. Use whatever's happening on the field as your test while you're setting it up. So right now we've got some grounds crew members getting the field ready to go, and they're the perfect test subject for what would be the players when they're going to be up there. And then once I have my focus ready to go, I just add a quick little piece of gaffer's tape to my focus ring, and that way I know my focus isn't changing no matter what. there's the remote all the way up there. So I'm in my usual first base spot here down in the photo pit, and game just started. Got the remote on top of the 400 millimeter and shooting the batter right now. Need something to happen. Nothing happened. Down to our final out of the game. Literally nothing has happened at all, so I'm not gonna have a whole lot to show you guys, but we'll make the best out of it. There it is. Wow, and the last out. You hit it. Walk off. It's a walk off. We gotta play it home. Walk-off home run on the last out of the game. Unbelievable. Here we go. Hey, that's why you set the remote up. Nothing happened all game. Last play of the game, you got something. Unbelievable. Okay, game over. I mean, it wasn't a real game. It was a practice game, Red Sox versus Red Sox. But literally nothing happened for 4 innings. And this is only a 4-inning game, but nothing happened for 4 innings. I mean, nothing happened at the plate. No slides, no dramatic plays, nothing. And then, literally on the last pitch of the game, guy hit a 2-run home run to win the game, considered like a walk-off. And there was no real like celebration or anything. We're playing each other, so just practice. You wouldn't expect a whole lot, but it shows that in principle, if you set up the remote, you set yourself up for more looks at whatever's happening in sports, in the game you're shooting. And you know, it takes some time to set up, but ultimately it can be worth it, especially when a crazy, really special moment happens. So thanks for sticking with me. I hope this video was helpful. I hope you learned how to set it up, the basics. And if you liked the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of this stuff, and drop me a comment below. Let me know any questions you have. I'm all ears, as always. I'm sweating. I'm tired. I'm hot. But it was a good day. So we'll do it all again tomorrow.